Information on this website and also in this video are for experimental and educational purposes only and are not intended to replace the medical advice, diagnosis, or recommendations of your physician or healthcare provider. This webinar makes no claims that products, therapies, or services herein will cure disease. Okay, that is the required disclaimer, which is now being read. And it's, there's some common sense in there because you need to also think things through, carry on talking to your doctors and your healthcare practitioners. I certainly am not the kind of person who would advise you not to. I personally treat Spooky as being a complementary therapy. There's a few things that I would exclusively do with Spooky, but there's also plenty of other things I need to discuss with the doctor so I can get perspective as to how to look after myself. All right, so there's, it's important that we think these things through. Yeah, we got about 4 minutes remaining or a little bit less. And on the hour, I will start the presentation. So as you got a couple of minutes, grab yourself a beer from the freezer, get yourself or fridge or whatever it is you got. Make yourself a quick cup of tea or coffee or an AeroPress espresso, whatever it is you prefer, and settle down. Open up a bag of crisps and chill out to some stimulating entertainment and information. Okay, hello Georgia, hello Canada, hello Jamestown. Okay, couple more minutes to go. Everyone, I hope is you're, chilling out, relaxing, getting yourself ready. Do have a pen and paper ready for the end of the presentation, okay? Because that's where the promo code will be. That's the thing that'll save you 5%. That's the thing that'll make life a little bit easier for you, okay? So grab yourself a pen and paper. It's also good to take down notes when you're thinking about, what we're discussing in the presentation as well. 2 minutes to go, roughly speaking. Hello, New Jersey. Welcome to the show. You got the great and glorious, amazing Nick Dewey here, preparing to help you. I'm on the Spooky2 forum. You can contact me through that. You can contact me directly via direct message, via Facebook if you wish as well. Hello, Cape Town. 126 people present in the room right now. That's 128 now, so that's even better. That's 128 people who are going to help today and provide you with the motivation and the instruction to be able to use the amazing Spooky2 system to the best of your ability, using a slightly more advanced, slightly more different method and approach, which is, of course, the DH experimental presets. Okay, hey there, Mark from France, good to see you. Good to see you, Richard from California. Been to California twice before. Great fun place. I do actually want to go back at some point. Uh, have yourself a non-alcoholic beer then, in that case, if it's too early. Excellent. Excellent. I like to hear these good news stories, okay? There are people all around the world who are just like having lots of fun with this stuff, and there's reasons for that. The number of users use Spooky2 worldwide is like quite a lot. Anyway, we're on the hour now, and let's press the button, click the presentation, click share, and start talking things through. Now, I've already received information that there may be a black rectangle in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. That's just the controls for me to be able to use Zoom, and I might try and move it around if necessary. So, what is the David Halliday experimental presets? An energetic heating system in its own right. So we're doing this via the Spooky2 system provided by the wonderful Spooky2 company. And this is a way whereby we get frequencies with different waveforms and different types delivered in different ways to the body for the purposes of adjusting something about the body. Yes, feel free to put any questions you want for me for the end in the Q&A section in the chat or the Q&A section on Zoom, because I'd be happy to have a look at that and go through the whole lot afterwards. But we'll be doing the questions afterwards. Type them in now by all means, okay? So the frequency sets that we use. So a set of frequencies is like a whole line of frequency numbers with a name to it, okay? So the frequency sets that we use are provided free of charge as part of our software. Now, Spooky2 literally has probably the biggest database of frequency therapies in the world, which essentially for a system which is much more inexpensive than a few others out there is actually quite mind-blowing. And there is no subscription to be paid for access to the frequencies. All right. All you need to do is get yourself the hardware, and then you can download the software, and then you get all the frequencies there. And I'll be showing you how to get the DH experimental frequencies shortly. So Spooky2 allows for almost infinite customization of the therapeutic approach and plenty of scope for experimenters of all types. Most but not all of the frequency sets have been discovered by practices all around the world. All right, anywhere from Russia, America, Europe, over the past 100 years or so, thus giving us probably the most powerful healing modality for use at home of any that I've come across. And yes, I have tried a fair few different forms of healing, so I'm sure you'll find out, So this is what it was like for me. When I first came across Spooky, I was in a very, very bad state of especially physical illness. The candidiasis, the fungus had pretty much taken over my whole body. I also had other pathogens, co-infections going alongside it. There was numerous forms of fungal infections going along with me. I was in a terrible state. So I was learning Spooky2 with a bad case of brain fog, used on a daily basis in lots of different ways. And alongside other things I've done, it's really been quite incredible. I don't think I am a 100% person, but I'm pretty much getting there over quite so many years. So if you turn this as a lifestyle, if you turn this into a lifestyle, then you're going to get some progress. Okay. Now, if you disbelieve in the system and you treat it as then treat this as a way of life, and your life will be better as a result. Okay, this is not something that requires belief. It does not require the placebo effect. There's none of that involved at all. It is a direct effect upon the body, as experience demonstrates. Okay, so what are these things? Where do they come from? What are they about? What are the DH experimental presets? Well, they're obviously a bit different and a bit odd. DH, David Halliday, worked things out. And he worked things out in a certain complicated way and managed to get lots of non-frequency data. But then those were converted into frequency numbers for us to be able to use on fun things like the Generator X Pro and the XM Blue generator. So David Halliday is curious because his method of discovering the frequencies was from dowsing. Now, you can react in different ways to this. Some people think, oh no, what a load of rubbish. And other people think, oh my God, that's the stuff that's real. The different people will react to that subject in different ways. But if you get benefit from it and it does its job, then why worry about how the numbers came about? And I think that's one of the most important things to recognize, because we want results. We don't want to play around, and I certainly don't want to waste time in my life. Okay. So some people use the DH experimental presets as is. All right. And that becomes their sole healing method at this stage in their journey. And I'm not sure that in every case that's a good idea, but for a lot of people, they are getting benefits exclusively that way. All right. The DH experimental presets cover like non-physical things as well as physical things. So they have different types of quality of effects upon the body in different systems. Definitely consult with a qualified doctor or naturopath or healthcare provider of a relevant type, because that will provide a bit of extra, positivity. I myself am not actually a doctor and I'm not qualified to give medical advice. I can tell you from my experiences, I can tell you from my own research and reading, but then that's only, from me. Also, listen to your body, listen to how it's reacting, how you're feeling energetically, and just adjust your methods accordingly. Sometimes you want to do more of something, sometimes you do less of something, sometimes you bring something else in. It's a bit of a dance, really, when you're doing alternative healing. Okay, so there are these like pre-physical things like the chakras and meridians, which are included in the DH experimental presets. And anyone who has an interest in these things should be aware of and should learn to incorporate them into their terms of their healing plan. But of course, it depends upon what your condition is and how heavily ingrained and difficult to shift your disease is. So you may want to use the DH experimental frequencies, but do those alongside the treatments for your physical disease and your physical disease frequency sets, as well as, anything else you're recommended to do with your herbs or pharmaceuticals or dietary changes and so on and so forth. But there are some, there are interesting success stories from these things. And I've got one here now. Okay. Just think about these words. Wow, mentioned 3 times. I'm completely blown away by this. We noticed a cavity forming on our son's tooth on Tuesday night, and Wednesday we started running preset number 12, 24 hours a day on remote. And we listened to MP3s to the same frequency on the way to and from school. I'm very pleased with the results in such a short period of time. And that's the photographs of it. There's a cavity and there's it gone. There's a cavity and there's it gone. So where are you going to get these things from? All right. It doesn't come down in the software when you download it straight from the website. There's an extra thing you've got to do to get the DH experimental frequencies on your computer. Okay. Now, the software itself for Spooky2 comes down from the Spooky2 website. Spooky2.com, download section. All right. But the DH presets comes from a different downloads page, spooky2.com/downloads page / okay. And there's this section here, Spooky2 DH experimental presets. So once you've already got the Spooky2 software installed from spooky2.com and it's running on your computer, all right, you close that software down so it's not running, then you click on this and you get it installed. Then that will then give you the access to this fun, amazing, peculiar, wonderful, mysterious DH experimental presets, which does wonderful things. So it'll appear here in your presets tab, just about there, okay? DH experimental frequencies. And then bam, that's your doorway to explore this particular aspect of the complexities and beauty of the Spooky2 system. Okay, so now let's think about, actual practical uses. Right. Wide variety of ailments. Loads and loads and loads and loads of things, including like your prostate and other, parts of the body. But a lot of it is like the energetic level as opposed to the physical level. All right. So the intention is to assist the physical healing, but through working specifically on the energies that are in and around the body. Okay, so people all around the world are using these things with good effects, whether your concerns are spiritual or physical. Adding the DH Wellness program into your existing methods can really help with a few things. On top of that, and I'm going to mention this later on, okay, when you're talking about psychological health, emotional health, that the DH presets can really like help to boost that. So if we wanted to use the DH frequencies as a standalone healing plan, is there a particular method of doing it? That's the question. Now, this is where we focus on the way in which DH is used as a therapy in its own right. Okay. Now, let's think back to when we're using the Spooky2 system under normal circumstances. Okay, not the DH experimental frequencies. We just, the normal physical stuff. We tend to do this thing called terrain, which is the landscape of the body, and it deals with your organs of elimination. And we tend to run that first. And on top of that, the other protocols of Morgellons and Lyme and the Big C, they start with their own built-in terrain protocol. All right. But we're working on a different system. We're working on an energetic system. So the first 6 presets are used instead of, or seemingly instead of, the terrain protocol, because that then helps to make sure the energetic system is a little bit more set right, so that you can then do more with the other DH frequencies and they'll be more effective. All right. You can use 1 to 6 again and again and again if you want. in order to try and, like, keep yourself right, keep yourself, balanced. So let's think about the output methods. This is Spooky2. You can do anything with it. There's the coil, there's contact, there's laser, there's plasma, there's the remote units, and there's scalar. All right. And you've also got a couple of very useful PDFs which come down with the download, which will teach you more about these things and about the various different sections of them, which I'm going to briefly go into here. All right. I'm going to briefly go into it here, but I want to encourage you to download not only the Spooky2 software, but also the DH experimental frequencies, which of course you'll be able to use through your Spooky2 compatible generators. Okay. So that's your output methods. That's your coil, that's your contact methods, that's your cold laser. There's the plasma, you got remote, and of course scalar. So think about the equipment you've already got. Think about what else you might need to get to try and improve things more and to boost your ability to understand and use the DH presets and all the other cool stuff that we've got with Spooky2 more effectively. All right, think it through. So let's think about the properties of the methods of delivery of the frequencies and which one could, like, really be most useful to yourself for different things. Because if you think about it, if you're doing contact work, it'll operate differently than, let's say, scalar or plasma. Okay, it must do. It's a different form of energy. It's a different method of delivery. So let's discuss these things one at a time, okay? Starting off with the coil. Now, we've seen the illustration of that. That's the black lollipop type thing with a hole in the middle. All right. When you place that with the BN side against the body, it delivers the frequency to the body in a targeted area. So the coil is very good for targeted work. Okay. The field extends many, many inches away from the coil, so it can penetrate the body pretty deep. The PEMF has its own specific benefits, such as increasing microcirculation. So if you're only thinking about microcirculation, it doesn't matter what frequencies is going through the PEMF coil too much, because the PEMF has that power. The coil can also be used to imprint frequency into a vial of oil for topical application, as well as to imprint crystals, water, and many other things. So it's there to imprint as well as treat a specific area of the body. Those are the two main things that we think about when we're thinking about the PEMF wand. Now, for those of you who know about your chakras and meridians and where they are and the acupuncture, acupressure points, the coil could be quite good for that, although its treatment area is not pinpoint. All right, it's got a field. It can still be used to focus on some of those energetic centers. All right, or maybe you can get some inspiration from the Guy's biomagnetic theory to see where there'll be something you could do there with different regions. Now, contact mode is very popular, and of course, it's the most affordable method. It only takes the boost units, the contact cable, and either TENS pads or hand cylinders to be able to do, and you'll get that straight from the box when you get your generators, okay? You place the TENS pads right wrist to left ankle, or in any appropriate configuration that could lead to better healing for a particular complaint. And I'll show you some images of that shortly. The TENS pads can also be placed either side of a mason jar or glass of water to imprint frequency into water or into a crystal placed in the water. So therefore, contact is directly for the body, covers nearly the whole body when you put the TENS pads right wrist, left ankle. So therefore, it's good for nearly everything that way, okay? But it can also be used for imprinting of fluids and crystals. Contact is a great method due to its power and directness. If you can't afford to get plasma, then do use contact as best as you can, okay? It takes a little bit longer than plasma to get the results from contact, but on the other hand, it's still very good and very powerful. So there's this website there you can go to. Write this down with your pen and paper, www.spooky2-mal.com/blog/tens-pads-placements, and that will give you the full illustration of different parts of the body and where you should put the pads for different things, sciatica and leg problems, elbow problems, small of back, the thigh, the upper back problems. You can work these things out as a result of just checking spooky2-mal.com/blog/tens-pads-placement, okay? very good resource for you. Now, discussing cold laser, it's a variety of LED, but it's very like clinical. It's very precise. It's very scientific and very precise, narrow waveform of light, which is much narrower than any other regular LED. All right. And because of that, its very nature has healing properties. The light can be used on the skin and can penetrate, a few layers deep to help bring vitality and balance to the area, as well as being used to deliver frequency. Okay. You can deliver this both through the cold laser twin or the cold laser wrist, which can be used to bring some frequency to the blood for circulating throughout the body, as well as targeted areas on the body, your meridians, your chakras, and energy centers. So there's quite a broad ways in which you can use cold laser. But the twin can be used on the skin, on a spot area. You can put the covers on them. You can put them in your mouth for your gum diseases and mouth problems. They can also, with the covers on, be placed in the nose for the sinuses or in the ears for tinnitus. Okay. And of course, the wrist can be draped over a glass of water so that you can use it again for imprinting frequency into the water, or wrap it around a crystal and program the crystal that way. So cold laser has imprinting as well as direct bodily effects and is also good for water. Now, we're going to talk about the big one, okay? The big expensive products, all right? The plasma. This is where real power comes from. It's the big gun. Unlike contact mode, plasma can penetrate all areas where conductivity might reduce the flow of electricity to do the work. Think about it. Your body is full of different chemicals and different matter in different parts and different organs. They all conduct differently. So the current's going to flow better through those which conduct better and less through that without which conducts less well. So there may be some areas where the frequency won't be going quite as well with contact. It's still very good, but plasma will penetrate right through. You can also have water to drink placed by your nightstand, so it'll take on the frequency that you've been running through the frequency, through the plasma tube, and then you can drink it in the morning to give your boost to your system. So it's a very good whole body method. I prefer plasma for overnight as opposed to contact because I turn over a lot in bed at night and I find contact difficult that way. Now, when we're thinking about the DH experimental presets, I get the impression that scalar is a bit more native, a bit more close to some of the more energetic and pre-physical forces that are mentioned within the DH experimental frequency list. But scalar is probably the closest energy type that we have to the human aura. So if you were to set up your Generator X Pro and scalar and you ran DH frequencies through them, it makes rational sense that it could be better possibly than other methods, but you'll have to play around and experiment and see which one works the best for yourself. Scalar energy is the nature of the way that cells communicate and is part of the forces that make them active and able to function better energetically and in terms of their physical properties. I did one of our delightful conferences a couple of years ago, and I set up the scalar, and because I was tired after 2 days of talking for 8 hours a day, I walked into the scalar field and I could feel it. I could physically feel the scalar field in precisely the same shape and form as it's described. So the scalar field really does have power. You can also place crystals and water to be imprinted on the transmitter coil, and molecular scalar can be done by placing herbs and medicines and essential oils on the receiver coil. So receiver is your input, transmitter is your output. Okay, receiver is your input, transmitter is your output. This will then flavor the rugby ball-shaped field between the box lids with the energy of the things of the receiver coil, as well as imprinting the effects in the water and crystals on the transmitter plates, thus adding even more options for energetic treatment. Okay, so scalar adds more ability. You can place that crystal on the coil. You can have that crystal in your pocket during the day and put it back onto the scalar unit in the evening when you go to bed, and you take your overnight treatment that way. Same with the glass of water on it. You can put your herbs and your pharmaceuticals onto the receiver coil, and that will also flavor the field to provide some effect. It's pretty damn good. Now, remote is very different when looking at the DH experimental presets. Yes, you can use it in the traditional way and put a sample of your target DNA in the remote unit wrapped in paper tape to deliver the energy to your whole body. Yes, of course you can. But there's another way of doing it to get the information from the remote into the energy field quicker, and that's you place the remote on an extension cable, a BNC extension cable, and you have the remote against your upper left arm, which is most receptive to this delivery method. And that brings the energy into the field with a bit more directness. Of course, you can use the remote to imprint holographic stickers with the frequencies that you're using as well, so that they can be worn or placed on the inside of your trouser belt or bring them into the energy field somehow to add extra therapy on the way. The stickers can also be applied, again, to chakras and meridians too. Okay, when you're thinking about the remote, here's different types of things you can use. Nails, we say a month, possibly longer. I think John White was saying recently that nails in the remote could possibly be indefinite, but I personally get a stronger signal with fresh, so I tend to change it up once every 2 or 4 weeks. A sample of saliva on blotting paper, 3 days. Drop of blood, 5 to 6 days in the remote on blotting paper. Skin cells from the inside of your cheek, again on blotting paper, 4 to 5 days, and the bulb of the hair, not the hair, it's not a piece of your hair itself, but the bulb of the hair, couple of days. All right. So that's why most of us tend to use our fingernail clippings, because that's like the best way of, that's a form of DNA which we shed on a regular basis. We might as well just use that. Now let's think about power. Standard Spooky2 rules apply here. Plasma is your Archangel Michael, okay? Plasma is the most powerful. Second is contact, which is, still very, very, very good. Then coil and remote. But the remote can be used in the traditional spooky way via the boost, or it can be put on the BNC cable against the upper left arm. So remote is good, but it's operating in a different way. All right. It's operating very much in the energetic way. Now we've got an image here showing you where we're looking at in the presets tab, DH experimental frequencies / contacts in this case. And it's got the letter C in brackets after each particular preset, because the letter C refers to contact mode in this particular case. Okay. And these are the 6 frequency sets that you'll be running as the equivalent of terrain via the DH experimental frequencies method. Now, the different categories you can have a look at, which shows you how much there is out there. All right, option 10, mind and brain. Option 19, spiritual. Okay. Option 16, senses and perception. There's a lot going on there. Okay, these are the different categories. That is quite a lot of things to play around with. So a good suggestion would be to, after having spoken to your doctor or naturopath and having gained a good diagnosis from a qualified person, to think about what the situation you find yourself in at the moment really is and demands from you. Okay, what is it your disease is demanding from you? What is it your condition is demanding from you? What is it your life is demanding from you? And what sources of research inform you as to what ways you can adjust your current situation? And then find the right category that seems to fit the bill and try and find frequency sets that also help to fit the bill. All right, these things have to be regarded as being experimental and are called experimental for a reason. Experiment with them and see what adds to your healing and what detracts. Take time over your experimentation. Take time over your experimentation, okay? So we're now going to run a little video which will teach you about how to do the chains, how to chain the presets.
Hi, I'm John White. I'm going to show how to create a preset chain. A preset chain is simply a sequence of presets. When one preset finishes, it steps over to the next preset. If you navigate to the presets tab, which is on the very left hand side, I'm going to show in this example how I can chain several human herpes virus presets together. So I've gone under miscellaneous. I'll choose contact mode, and I'm going to chain these three presets together: herpes virus 1, 2 and 4. On the first preset, always make sure that it's been set to not loop continuously. If it loops continuously, it will never step to the second preset that's in the loop. You then click on the arrow down to add to this window here the preset that's selected. I've selected number 1, I'll select number 2 and arrow down, and number 4, arrow down. Now I've got those three presets ready to be chained. I click on the save icon here and I give it a name. It's going to be saved in the user folder, and I'm going to call it something like herpes virus chain, and it's saved. If you click on the user directory icon up here, you'll see the preset that you've created is shown here. If you click on it, you'll see the three presets which have been chained in this chain preset. The next thing you do is you go to Control, Allow Generator Overrides, choose a generator, and you run. It will go through the first preset. Once the first preset has completed, it will then step to the next, and then again. Thank you for watching.
Okay, as is traditional with the contact mode, you can give yourself higher power using the higher power ports on the black boost unit, which you plug into your generator. Or you can go onto the colloidal silver terminal for more mild treatments. Now, lowering the amplitude on the settings page might also help in some cases. Physical comfort when using contact rifling is an important consideration. There do appear to be mixed opinions on the voltages that one needs to use on contact mode. Some sources suggest going even as low as 2 volts or 0.8 on the amplitude page for contact use. In some respects, this might make sense, as one would assume that an energetic body effect would require less power than a killing physical organisms. But that will have to be down to experiments and for your own decision in terms of what is right for you. I tend to use mine at the same voltage that the shell uses and still seem to get a good effect. But one would also assume that at the normal shell voltage, one would have more immediate power and therefore more rapid results. Therefore, one would assume that in the case of the DH presets, higher voltages are better for more physical things and lower for more energetic and spiritual things, if that makes sense. So that means that when we're choosing the treatments, on the basis that you're using contact modes, it would be worthwhile adjusting the voltages on the settings page accordingly when you set up the presets. But using the remote mode, you don't need to adjust anything as far as amplitude is concerned. Remote shell is remote shell. So, is there some things that the DH presets are better at? I mean, why would we look at DH specifically? Okay. One of the key benefits of the DH presets is they cover such a wide range of issues, including those associated with mental and emotional issues. Let's be honest, it's the 21st century and everyone's a bit stressed these days. So I think we all need a bit of help on the mental and emotional side of things, as well as addressing some of the imbalances energetically that might, lead up to a bad situation that you could find yourself in. So this is a way of helping yourself out. So this is just a selection of some interesting ones which are out there. Neurotransmitters, correction and balance. Eliminates anxiety and depression in general. Eliminates stress and trauma general. Balance and correct prostate, spinal, nervous system, correct, specific. All right, so there's lots of stuff there which could have some kind of importance or relevance, taking into account what you're going through at this stage in your journey of life. All right, and if you're having some, life issues going on, it's always good to have a bit of extra support. There's things for confidence, things for happiness, neural pathways, creativity, linguistics. All right, so this is also useful for biohackers who might want to try and improve their performance in some areas. So from this, you should be able to see that, there's a lot that can be done to give you a happier, more enjoyable life and a real sense of moving forward in different varieties of rebalancing. And a lot of it, if you haven't downloaded the DH presets yet, you might not have even thought about. And you might not thought could be achieved, with your little XM generator, with your Generator X Pro, or indeed with your plasma unit and scalar unit. Okay, and who doesn't get a bit of depression in the winter? I mean, right now it's the height of the summer, it's bright, it's cheerful. But when it comes to like September, October, I know I get depression. So I'm going to need to use this stuff seasonally as well. All right. So how would you think about, treating yourself with, let's say, the DH presets? Hypothetical example here, just to get you thinking, all right? Maybe you're dealing with depression and you're looking out for something to help. The first step, complete the first 6 presets of the DH experimental presets. That's your equivalent of the terrain. That's the thing that sets the energy system right and running. Step 2, run those 6 presets on remotes in the background. All right, it could be on one remote with a chain or 2 remotes and doing 3 on one, 3 on the other. It depends upon how it's reacting to your body, and listen to your body all the time. Okay, then thirdly, treat using the relevant DH frequencies while the first 6 presets run in the background. Okay, it's relatively simple, relatively straightforward, and it's there to be played around with and experimented with to see what can happen. So some hypothetical suggestions which I've looked at within the DH presets, which might possibly help in, let's say, a depression situation, because depression could have lots of different causes, and therefore it'll be worthwhile playing around with different sets to see which one seems to do it. Okay, or indeed maybe a whole collection of them. Dementia, headache and migraine, anxiety, brain and memory, autism correction, anxiety and depression, eliminate fear, vagus nerve, spiritual healing, physical and energetic, serotonin, dopamine, and increased happiness. And there's lots more out there which could have some kind of resonance to the problem of winter depression. So it's a question of playing around, researching, and see what could possibly help. All right. Now, whether you choose to run these on numerous generators or just have the 1 to 6 running in one background on a remote, and of course with the highest priority being delivered in the strongest methods, such as plasma and contacts, and the remote is extended to the upper left arm. Okay. The things which are of less high priority, they can be kept on remote. Things which are more high priority, you do in a more high priority way. See how your body is reacting to the changes over time. Take notes and keep a writing diary alongside a diary of other treatments and diet and nutrition you're putting yourself through. I'll say that again, okay? If you're treating yourself, take notes and keep a writing diary alongside a diary of other treatments and diet and nutrition you are putting yourself through. Refer back to it over time, all right? Write down all your symptoms, write down what you're going through. It becomes, the study of one. And that is the final thing you need to be aware of. NICK 0722, 5% off, valid for 1 month, okay? NICK, I think it starts with lowercase n actually. NICK 0722, valid for 1 month. Write that down. 5% off from the spooky2-mal.com website for any of your extra contact cables or replacement this, that, and the other, or anything you might need to expand your system, because I'm always going to be expanding my system. I'm telling you that for nothing. Okay, that's NICK 0722, valid for 1 month from today's date. And today is the 22nd of July, year of our Lord 2025. Now I'm going to get myself back onto the Zoom, click on stop share, and bring my face back. So I'll have to take you away from the pleasure of seeing the presentation to seeing the misery of my face. Uh, what I'm going to do first is start at the Q&A because we've got two things going on here. We got a Q&A section and we got the chat section. So I'm going to go through the Q&A section first, and I'm going to answer any of your questions. I've got the Spooky2 software set up, so we can have a look at that if we want. And then we can carry on moving forward with discussing things bit by bit, okay? Right, so Q&A section, here we go. Is there a way to enter a frequency yourself? Yes, there is. And that's when you can create your own programs. And I could try and click on share again. Okay, so I'm now bringing up the Spooky2 software so I can hopefully demonstrate. Where is it now? There we go. Under File, first entry, Create Program. Create Program. Click on that. And what you've got is the ability to type in name, type in the frequencies, comma separated. You've got extra codes here which you can use so that you can do your sweeps and change the waveform as you go through it if you wish. These require playing around with and learning so that you can then design something which is right for yourself. Frequencies go there. This box here is dwell time, and that's 180. That's 180 seconds being 3 minutes. To the most part, leave that the way it is. And you can add a little description. And then
Sorry,
top,
sorry to interrupt. We
yeah,
cannot see your sharing.
you can't see it.
Yeah, because it is a big black part covering your
Okay.
screen.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I'll close that down for now. I'll quick stop share. I'm sorry about that. I don't quite know what the glitch was about there. But essentially, you need to look at the file menu. And it's the first thing down, and it says create program. So that's how you do that. Is there a DH preset for huge kidney zones? Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. But there's probably something in there which will assist with kidneys and definitely kidney meridians. I would have thought that if you're going out after something that big and that scary, you'd want to do more direct stuff using database programs designed for kidneys and designed for kidney stones. That will probably be a better suggestion. How to chain the presets from 1 to 6. Just as was demonstrated in the video with John White. You click on them until they're in the programs box. Then you click on save. Then you save it and it'll appear in the user folder. So you can have them saved there, ready for you to use whenever you want. Why is it not possible? Why is it possible to set a DH chains? Well, that's what was covered in John White's little video there. So you can chain them. It's just a question of like double clicking on them till they're in loaded programs, then clicking on save. It's recommended to run each program 1 and 2 should be run before each and every DH program. I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate. You need to do 1 to 6 as if it was terrain, then you can see what your body can handle. Then 1 and 6 is then run continually in the background on the generator. And then you treat with anything else. So you could run 1 and 2 before doing a DH treatment if you want. But again, it's a question of listen to your body. Is it recommended to run programs 1 and 2 times? Well, if you're running, like, from what we've discussed, okay, you'd run 1 to 6 continually on a remote generator whilst you're doing other stuff. So yes, you just leave that running in the background on a remote. All right. And then if you're doing more energetic stuff, you'd have one remote on a extension cable, BNC extension cable, and in your energy field on your upper left arm. All right. If you're running things on remote, it's good to run them for 24 hours a day and make sure your chain is not longer than 4 hours. For neck injuries, you could do a lot of good work with coil. Contact is also very good as well, but I think, right, if it's a neck injury, then that would suggest an issue with muscles and blood and that sort of thing, which would mean I would say the coil would be good. If that increases microcirculation, that will increase the body's ability to heal that particular area, and will also help to take poisons out of the inflammation and so on and so forth. And it could also provide a bit more soothing to the muscles and the bony area, I would have thought. I would suggest you experiment with coil for that. Do remote anyway. I mean, if you're doing something on contact, do the same thing on remote. If you're doing something on coil, do the same thing on remote anyway. Leave it running. You need to get as much help to your body as you can. Can you imprint metal coins, cowbells? Oh, I think that some people have experimented with imprinting on copper, but I think it depends upon what the metal is and how that metal will then store the energy and how well it'll store the energy. But we tend to use stickers, the holographic stickers, which maintain their charge for a long period of time. And it is said when placed in your energy field has an effect very similar to a contact session if kept, in your energy field all day long. So a couple of those, as well as doing contact sessions, as well as doing plasma sessions, would then help to boost things even further, take you in the right direction. Can remote run as without BNC extension? If you're using the Generator X Pro on standalone mode, yes, you could have remotes connected to the generator with the generator not connected to the computer once you've got the program stored in the Generator X Pro, right? But they are not, you cannot have a remote unit separate from a generator and expect it to run. It doesn't have the specifics to be able to do that. You have to have it connected to a generator for it to operate. It's quite simple. The BNC cable will be attached directly to the boost, the high power port of the boost, and then taking it out and attaching it straight to the connection on the remote unit. I mean, here's a remote unit. You just attach a cable to there, and the cable will go straight to your boost unit, or indeed straight to output one of the generator if you prefer it. If you wanted to get the voltage absolutely pinpoint, accurate for your work. Can you download the DH experimental frequencies on the Pro standalone? No, you download the DH experimental frequencies onto your Windows-based computer. And your Windows-based computer will then be connected to your generator, and you can then use your computer to tell your generator what to do. All right. You can take those frequency sets and put them on the Generator X Pro and load them into it, and it can then operate as a standalone thing for remote use. And you can have different remotes running different experimental frequencies, by all means. If you've got more than one generator, then the thing to do is to deploy them, use them. It's important to use your equipment. Yeah, it is recommended you run 1 to 6 as a chain on a remote continually or on a daily basis, to make sure it's keeping you clean whilst you're treating in other ways. Indefinitely. If you want to run the 6 presets on remote, you do it once, standalone by itself, and then you have it running on remote in the background indefinitely whilst you're doing your other treatments. When using DH presets remote mode, do we need to change the sequence from 0? I think it would be worthwhile doing so. When you're saving it, when you're saving them, yeah. I think so. What device and program to clear up misty blurred vision? Eye floaters. There's something in there about eye floaters. But obviously go to a doctor first, make sure it's not, cataract or something more scary about that than that. And also go and see an optometrist too to see if there's anything else which is causing your blurry vision, such as astigmatism. There's also eyesight to improve, which I think works more on the muscularity of the eye to help to clear, make things easier, but that might not work with everyone depending upon what shape eyes you've got. So I've got bad astigmatism. I don't think it would work for me. If you got a tooth cavity, by all means use 0012. By all means, yes. There's nothing wrong with having more things going on a remote at the same time. Nothing wrong with that at all. All right, let's say you've done grade scan and refine programs on dental issues with your TENS pads on your shoulders so that you don't fry your brain and your thyroid and your eyes. You could then use that and have the results of grade scan and refine programs of that running on another generator as well. I often have many remotes running for myself, doing all kinds of different things based upon what's going on with me. Sometimes they disagree with each other, and I end up having to stop one of them just to stop feeling groggy, but other times it's working in harmony. It would make sense to have two generators. If you don't have two generators, then just use one and maybe just try and do the best you can. Maybe you could just have one day when you're running 1 and 6 continually, and the other day you're doing the more specific stuff. Or maybe you run 1 and 6 in the morning, and then you do your more specific stuff in the evening and afternoon. It depends upon how you manage to logistically get it into your life. And I know that treating and fitting these things into your life can be a challenge, but you just got to do the best you can. I don't think it does lose effectiveness over multiple uses. It is said that the human energy field, after 3 days of a spiritual healing treatment, for instance, goes back to its previous disease state. All right. So essentially, I think it's worthwhile topping yourself up with this kind of stuff. Yes, you can get the extension cable from the Spooky2 website. It'll just be under the connectivity section, and it'll just be called a BNC extension cable. There are frequencies in DH which cannot be found when search is performed under Program tab. Uh, have you got them installed on your computer yet? Have you downloaded it from the page where you get the DH experimental frequencies? Yeah, use your DH frequencies alongside other sets, alongside other treatments. It doesn't matter. Which biofeedback scan setting do you prefer using? Depends how much time and energy I've got and if I think I can do it accurately and reliably. Brand new TENS pads will always provide a better signal than slightly older TENS pads. I tend to sometimes I do fast scans, sometimes I do general, sometimes I do the high frequency. Depends upon what I feel I'm going out after at the time because I have a history of multiple species of things. And I would tend to do long chains for myself personally, but that's because of the method which I've worked out for myself. And everyone will work these things out differently and use them differently because you got different pathogens, you got different qualities of conditions. If you're placing the remote unit in your energy field, I don't think you need fingernails clippings in it. But if you did, then you get an extra benefit from it because you get the whole body effects of the DNA as well as the extra benefit of the remote unit being inside the energy field. Well, terrain is used for, your regular presets and programs. It's not really used for DH experimental presets, but on the other hand, it's a good thing to run anyway. I mean, most years in the spring now, I run terrain for a while because it's good to clean the body out after winter and after Christmas. Sometimes I do that alongside, a juice fast or something like that. Okay, if you want to use the Hiwi Microgen, the software these days should have a patch built into it, which allows you to then transfer the database frequencies from your Spooky2 software directly to the Hiwi Microgen just by plugging it in and clicking on the button. I think it's in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And it'll have the little image of your Microgen to show you that that's what you should do. And it should give you the options for gold and silver cables as well. Okay, well, think about the instruction which John gave in the video about setting it to 0, repeat chain to 0. If you use generator X, you can run remotes on one generator and 10 pads or coil on the second generator port at the same time. Yes, absolutely. If you have, I mean, let's say you've got multiple coils and you've got multiple generators, right? And let's say you've got problems in different areas of the body. Why not lie in bed with six coils on your body in the different areas, each one doing a different treatment for a different thing? Why not? You can do that with coil. You can't do that with contact. How would you connect the remote to your left arm? No, you don't connect it to the left arm. You just have it in the energy field, beside the left arm itself. So if I just get some string or rope or some resistance band and hold it in place, or one of those what is it, sort of stretch fabric, and shove it over there and hold it in place whilst you're lying in bed taking a treatment. Okay, so it's all you need to do there. Do the holographic stickers have to be in contact with the body? I don't think so. They're an energy field thing. If you have them in contact with the body, it could do some good, but just having them in the energy field is fine. Actually, board gamers tend to buy these plastic wallets, which you can put cards in, and you can get those from some card shops, and maybe even put your stickers in that and then shove that in your pocket to keep them clean. But with magnetic stickers, you can't allow them to have access to a magnetic field. Okay, so once you've charged them, when you charge them, you have the time set to just 1 minute per frequency. You have it running, then you put the sticker in when it's running, and you take it out when it's still running. Because if you were to stop it, then it would be the magnets inside the remote unit that would blank the sticker. So it's got to carry on running when you take it out in order to keep the frequency in the sticker. All right. On one remote, you can only have up to 4 hours worth of treatment. That's the only thing you need to know. The shorter will be the more number of hits you get to each frequency, of course, per 24-hour period. All right, but the longest one should be maximum of 4 hours, maximum. Well, again, listen to your body. All right, terrain is done for 11 days. Maybe you can do the 1 to 6 in 6 days. All right, maybe you could do all 6 in 1 day and then go straight onto your treatment on the next day. It depends upon how your body is reacting to it. And you've got to listen to your body. You are the experimenter. You are the physician, so to speak, of Spooky when you're using Spooky on yourself. So take notes, keep a diary, make it work. I don't know much about double vision, so I would not necessarily be able to inform you, but there are loads of programs there. All right, we got the biggest database in the world, allegedly. All right. So there will be something there. Let's just have a quick look. Just have a quick look. Okay, programs, double vision. See if there's anything there. Yeah, diplopia cerebral. Eye muscle problem that causes double vision. So DIPLOPIA cerebral, 30 minutes, and it's an ETDF frequency set. And there's also an ear cancer one as well. So we don't know, see a doctor by all means, but then there is a frequency set which can help with double vision. It helps with the muscular problem associated with the double vision, maybe. Can DH frequencies be used on cats? Yes, of course. Nearly anything you can use on a human when it comes to frequency work, you can use on a cat or a dog or a horse or a goldfish. How would you treat a goldfish? I don't know. Probably tends about either side of the fish tank on the outside and get the frequency going through that way, imprinting maybe. I don't know. I haven't thought it through. There probably is more information on David Halliday's background, and I don't have it right now. Can you share how to create stickers? You don't create stickers. You just take a sticker, place it into the remote unit. Once your program is already running on remotes, no DNA in the remote at all. Just have it running. Once it's running, you then put the sticker in until it's finished, a couple of runs through, and you take it out. And then you have an imprinted sticker. And then you put it into your purse, into your wallet, on the inside of your belt buckle, inside of your shoe, on the back of a pendant around your neck, whatever it is that's appropriate. All right. Well, ideally, if it's on a pendant around your neck, maybe non-metallic would be better. Can I run terrain and DH presets? Yep. You can do the DH presets 1 to 6 at the same time as terrain. There will be no problem with that at all. If one can run only 4 hours on a remote, how is a program like Erasing Negative Thoughts with a runtime of 6 hours ever supposed to be run? Okay. What I'm talking about is when you've got a whole chain and you'll want to run that on remote 24 hours, it's ideal to have it on 4 hours. If you got a longer chain, but it's only based upon one thing, then you'd have to run the whole thing and keep it running if you're running it on remote. But doing a contact session would bring you more power. Okay, that's more or less that. So we're going to go to the chat section now, have a look at that. Before I do that, very, very quickly, I'm going to give you a very quick reminder of the cool information that you need to know. Bear with me a second, please. All right. Okay. So that's your promo code. 5% off website spooky2-mail.com. NICK 0722, valid for 1 month. I think it's a lowercase n, I'm not sure. But just plug it in and see what happens. And that will give you your 5% off, valid for 1 month. All right, now let's get back to the presentation, or me talking. So from the start of the chat section onwards, so would you please review the steps on how to download the DH presets? Okay, I'll go back into that again. Right, so go back to share. Okay, back to slideshow. Don't forget your promo code. We'll go straight back to right. So I just want to check your question again very quickly. I can't bring the chat up. There we go. How to set up what again? I've lost the. Oh, how to download, of course. How to download. Right, okay. So going back to the beginning of the presentation. Right, there we go. Click on slideshow there. Right, so you download the DH presets plugin separately. It's a plugin. Spooky2.com/downloads page. So notice this is not from spooky2-mail.com. This is from spooky2.com/downloads page / and it's down a little way. It says DH experimental presets. And then you just click on that and you get it installed into your already existing software on your computer. Right. If I want to use plasma with DH12, for instance, how long should I do the plasma and where do I put the Fanatron? Well, you have a choice. It's not a question of where do you put the Fanatron. It's a question of what effect do you want to get from the Fanatron. Okay, near field means really close to the body. Talking about within 6 centimeters, 6 inches, really close, really close. And that's where most of the power will come. But there's also far field, which is slightly further away. 8 inches. Further away from that, you'll get a milder effect. I get the equivalent of more or less a contact session through having my Fanatron bulb on my nightstand beside my bed. Okay, so I get the equivalent of a contact session that way. But if I want more power and I've got more scary things to really sort out, then I'm cuddling the thing. All right. Yeah, you can easily put your imprinted stickers inside a plastic wallet, not a problem. Okay. I think we've covered most of the questions so far. What's the best that treats protruding vertebrae and pain on one vertebrae? Okay, a good thing to look at would be Song of the Spine. That can be run on remotes, just generally to ease the area and try and bring things back on track. Obviously, I'd suggest you go and see a good osteopath who can set yourself, set the physical stuff right, and then also do other frequency treatments to try and deal with, the area to make sure you have less in the way of pain and things start to work out better. I'm actually running Song of the Spine on remote at the moment for myself because I've got a few issues there as well. Yeah, we've pretty much done everything. Okay, well, the cable you'll need to extend to your arm is just a black BNC cable. Let's go quickly back to the presentation image of all of the equipment, and I'll show you something of that. Cable, 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 cable. Okay, going back to the image of all of the equipment, which is, where have I put it? There we go. Right. Now you got on the left-hand side, top left-hand side, you've got the image of the coil. Now the BNC cable is just like that, but without a coil on the ends and with another end like that. Okay. And there's also an adapter which can be fitted on, which changes it from female to male, so that you can then put it into other aspects of the boost unit itself, which we've got an image of plugged onto the XM generator there at the bottom. All right. So it's just a cable that looks just like that. You might have one of those in your kit already if you just have a good look around the box. I think it comes with the Generator X Essentials kit, Portable Essentials kit. Okay. Right, so we'll close that down. Whoops. Right, okay. Okay, well then, you can get another one, I guess, from the website. All right, I think we've covered everything about that now. The DH experimental presets are vast. There's an awful lot there to play around with. And it is just an extra way of looking at health and treating yourself from another point of view. I personally find these things fascinating, and I hope that you can incorporate these into your own wellness plan. Now, I'll quickly once again show you my little promo code, because essentially that's what's important. No, I can't do that. I've gone and closed down the window, haven't I? Oh, silly me. Okay, well, we'll probably leave it at that for now anyway. Don't forget to get in touch. My name is Nick Dewey, Dewey. I'm available on the Spooky2 forum. You can get in touch with me via direct message and ask me things. And if you want, we can have a one-to-one Zoom call and discuss things if you need. Okay, just get in touch and take it one step at a time. Bye for now.